Hi, my name's Matt. I'm the Executive Director of SustainEd Farms, and thanks for tuning in again. Today, we have an awesome activity. We're going to actually learn how to tie-dye using all natural ingredients. And so, if you've ever seen a SustainEd Farms volunteer or staff member, you know that they wear a tie-dye shirt. And we want to teach you how to do that at home as well. I actually have two SustainEd Farms white t-shirts that we're going to tie-dye. The first step in the tie-dye process is to immerse these two shirts, or whatever you want to tie-dye, into a bath of water and soda ash. And so soda ash is something that allows the dye to adhere to the shirts. So I've washed the shirts just with normal detergent and then dried them, not using any fabric softener or dryer sheets, so they're completely clean. But the soda ash allows for the dye to adhere to the cotton. If you don't have soda ash at home, you can actually use baking soda, which almost everybody has. What we're going to do is leave these shirts in this bath of water and soda ash. The longer you leave them in, the better the dye is going to adhere to the shirts. And so it's a good recommendation for a minimum of hour, but anywhere up to 24 hours. While we are waiting for our shirts to soak in that soda ash, we're going to start preparing our dyes. And we're going to use a number of different vegetables and spices to get specific colors that we can use to dye our shirts for tie-dye. So the first thing that we're going to use is a beetroot. And so I have a beet right here. I'm going to blend up about a quarter of a beet with about a quarter of a cup of hot boiling water and 1 teaspoon of vinegar. You can make way more dye or way less dye depending on how much you're actually going to tie-dye, but because I'm only doing 2 shirts, I don't need a lot. So what I'm going to do is chop a quarter of that, add all of these things to the blender, and then mix them up. And then once that's mixed, we're going to actually strain it out using some cheesecloth. We just chopped that beetroot and ground it up. We're going to do the same exact thing with the onion, about a quarter of an onion. The actual skins of the onion will be great for our dye, so we want to include them. A teaspoon of vinegar and about a quarter cup of boiling water as well. So same exact recipe, just with a red onion this time. We're going to do the exact same thing, except we are going to be using kale to add a green chlorophyll type color. And so we'll be using about a quarter of a cup, maybe a half a cup, we'll see what the mixture looks like, of kale. Again, a teaspoon of vinegar and a quarter to a half a cup of boiling water for that dye. To use our last color is going to be with turmeric root, which is a spice that's yellow, very fragrant. We're going to use about a half a tablespoon of turmeric, about a quarter to a half a cup of boiling water, and again a teaspoon of vinegar. We'll blend that all up. The shirts are ready to come out of the soda ash, and so what we're going to do is simply wring them out into the sink. And then the next step here is to create a design with rubber bands. So the design that we normally do at SustainEd Farms is we write on the chicken within our logo, we take a pinch of fabric and we spin all the way until we have a spiral disc like this. And then what we do is we take a few rubber bands and put them across. And what these rubber bands do is they simply hold the spiral in place. Anywhere between 4 and 5 rubber bands should do fine. I've put 5 on here. And it looks kind of like this. And what this will do is make sure that this turns into a spiral with the dyes. So I'll do the other one quickly here, and then it'll be time to head outside to use our dye. All right, So I'm outside now and I brought all my dyes with me. I have our shirts right here. The reason I came outside is I don't want anything to stain inside. And so it's way easier just to do it on rocks or on grass, somewhere where it doesn't matter if anything's getting stained inside. If you don't want to go outside, I suggest putting down some newspaper and paper towels to make sure that any dye is soaked up when you're about to dye these t-shirts. Now, in order to get a good spiral, each one of these wedges could be a different color and alternating color. You want to make sure that complementary colors go together so that it looks nice when it's complete. The other thing that you really want to do is make sure that the dye completely saturates the shirt on both sides. So you want to use a lot. Now, squirt bottles are probably the best and easiest thing to use here, but I didn't have any at home. And I didn't want to break my social isolation to get some. So I'm just going to use this to pour right on top. It's not perfect, but it'll do the trick. Added the dye to the shirts. They're looking pretty great. I use just kind of an abstract way and we'll see how they turn out. The next step is we want to put them in a plastic bag, something that's microwave safe. So I have these Ziploc bags here and I'm going to add the bags in. Next, what we're gonna do is take these back inside the kitchen. I'm gonna microwave each bag for about 2 minutes. And the reason we do this is the heat allows the dye to set in the fabric. And then I'm going to leave these for 24 hours in a dark, cool place. So I'm just gonna put them in my garage. And then in 24 hours, we'll come back and I'll show you how to rinse them out appropriately. So I'll see you tomorrow. All right, welcome back. It's been about 24 hours since I set these t-shirts out in the garage, and it's time to give them a rinse and see how they turned out. So the first step is simply to open up our bags, and you'll notice I have them on a paper towel just so that the dye doesn't stain anything. And what you're gonna wanna do is on a cool setting in the sink or at the hose outside, you're going to run water through the shirt until it runs clean. And as you're doing that, you can take the rubber bands off and give it a good wring out so that the water that's dripping off the shirt is actually clear. So I have both shirts here, and they turned out pretty cool. So let me show you this one first. So this shirt, you can see, because of the spiral, there's a very nice spiral. There's the green from the chlorophyll. There's some of the pinks in there from the beets, and the yellows from the turmeric. You'll notice that the color is going to be light, very natural colors because we use natural dyes. If we were using synthetic dyes that you might get from a craft store, the colors are going to be much, much more vibrant. And that's what we do when we use, when we tie dye for these shirts here. But with the natural dyes, they're really, really soft, subtle, and kind of nice. Here is the other one here. This one had more onion in it. And the red onion creates that kind of brown color. Nice spirals, and on the back. All right, so the next step, now that we've rinsed these off, is I'm going to run them through a quick cycle of cold water in the washing machine. And then I'll let them tumble dry in a very, very, very low heat so that they dry off and they'll be good and clean to wear. So we encourage you to tie dye at home. If you have regular dyes, feel free to use those, but also take the challenge to create your own dye at home from vegetables and natural products. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on our next video.